taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Show. This is the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and analysis about games in the gaming industry for May 16th, 2020. Chat is on fire today. Everyone's exhausted because of the dance party in the Discord server. Yeah, that's what I said, and that's apparently what's been happening. But anyway, awesome to see you guys having a lot of fun. My name is Ash. I'm here as always with Cyb, and we've got a ton to talk about today, which is always great. With the lockdown and the LARPing and everything that's going on in the world, some weeks news has been slow. This is not one of those weeks, and so that's really good to see. How are you doing this morning, Cyb?
Good. It's a good morning. We got some Cyberpunk news.
We have Cyberpunk stuff to talk about, as you'll see on the thumbnail. We got some visuals from CD Projekt Red, which of course means that the Cyberpunk community goes crazy. I saw a funny meme. It was like, Xbox shows 30 minutes of gameplay, and it's like escalating excitement. And then it's like, gameplay in air quotes, and it was like, PlayStation shows something, Ghost of Tsushima shows 16 minutes of gameplay. It's like the second highest level of excitement. And then Cyberpunk 2077 spins around a car for 5 seconds and the guy's head is exploding. It was rather funny. So yes, that's a GIF that was released on Twitter. And we're going to talk about it because it showcases the Badlands, and we get a bit of a look at what the world of Cyberpunk 2077 looks like outside of Night City. Plus, the car is cool. But there's some other things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Ghost of Tsushima gameplay. We're going to talk about some questions and things that you guys and ladies have put into our Discord content requests channel. That was pretty busy over the past couple days, so we're going to talk about those things. And that's right, Game Notes. They did already drop 48 minutes, but it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we saw that. Also, we're going to talk some more about Sony and what's going on with The Last of Us 2. There's some shady stuff going on. Some of it might not be as shady as is being reported, but we will... Or maybe shady, but not like uniquely shady. I'll explain what I mean when we get to that topic. All right, if you're listening live, of course, do say hello in the live chat. Send us your comments and questions there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us in YouTube that you appreciate this content. All right. So, we're going to start with some of the topics that you posted in the content requests channel, and also we'll quickly talk about Ghost of Tsushima. But some of you were asking about, or somebody was asking about, is there going to be a third South Park game?
The quick answer to that is there already is a third South Park game. There's 3 of them. So I think what they meant is there going to be a 4th South Park game?
Well, there's Stick of Truth, there's The Fractured But Whole. What's the third one?
Phone Destroyer.
Oh, okay. Well, I imagine they meant in the Stick of Truth series.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those scenarios where they're like, are you making a third game? Oh, yes, we have a third game. Oh, you do? Yes, it's called Phone Destroyer. It's already out. It's one of those scenarios where it's like it depends on who's asking the question, but if you're asking anybody who represents South Park, they'll immediately say there is 3 games. Are we working on a 4th? Because it's one of those marketing things where it's like, no, we're not ignoring that there's this other game out there, right? We're not ignoring that this Phone Destroyer thing works, which is a fairly... it does have like a fair bit of like narrative to it. So, I mean, I guess, again, it depends on it depends on how you want to look at something, or how you want to reference something, or how you want to like, chalk it up to like what's coming, what's not, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, for the most part, it's like, yeah, it's a little weird, but it's, you might as well. So,
okay, but is there another game coming? Are they working on one?
Yeah, is there another Stick of Truth game coming? Well, they might be like, I mean, they might be done with the stick of truth as far as like the stick goes, because the stick of truth is, it's a like they might be done with that like genre or like the series. Will it feature the same like new kid? Yeah, so probably yes. Are they going to do it? Probably, because they just got confirmed for another 2 years with Comedy Central, and that means that show, as old as it is now, coming up on like, I think it's been online for like almost 20 years now. But that show is essentially making a lot of people a lot of money. So if it's making a lot of people a lot of money, and the last two games sold ridiculously well, then yeah, they're gonna do another game. The Fractured Butthole was really, really financially good, because it was one of these games where it's like, did they spend 100 million making it? No. From what I think I heard, it's like they didn't even spend 20 million making it, and they made like a ton of money. So it's one of those types of games where it's like, all right, we can make something that just like increases and like builds off of what we've already done, and the assets are all there. Like, they don't have to go and remake these assets for the new game for the super high definition.
I'm gonna say I don't
ray
think there's gonna be
tracing.
like millions spent in R&D for graphical enhancements. It's gonna be South Park graphics, so they do have that going for them.
So have they announced anything? No. Has the is Ubisoft or Obsidian, which made the last two games, are either one of them like setting aside time to start working on it? Not from what we can tell. The primary reason for this is that Trey and Matt are just super busy right now. Apparently they're working on couple new projects, maybe a new musical for Broadway and some other stuff. So we don't so it really depends on them whether or not they have the time to both voice and write a bunch of the story, or how that'll end up working out. So we don't really know where that's at right now, and because of that, I would say it's probably something that everybody currently is 100% willing to do. If tomorrow Matt and Trey call up Ubisoft or Obsidian with Microsoft now and say, "Hey, we want to make a third game," the answer to that is going to be, "Sure, let's get started on it." That's going to be the answer. But have they started working on it? From all that we can tell, no. Is there enough interest, and is there enough? Is this a game that would take 5 years to develop? No, it wouldn't take that long. It would probably take less than 2. So they could be doing, or they could focus on taking the game out and bringing it out maybe, once their current show wraps up, if that's the case there. So we're talking like 2022, which means that they've got like 2 years to start working on it essentially. And can they get it out in that time? Probably. So it's one of those things where it's like everything seems to point at yes, but there's no definitive movement on anything right now. But to say that, just so you know, it's like you can say that, but that doesn't mean that will always remain that way. If like everybody's, yeah, we're gonna do a next thing of this, and it's gonna be great, and then nobody ever like pulls the trigger on it, then it never happens. And by the time that somebody wants to, then the interest is gone and the money's dried up and nobody wants to invest in it, and then you're stuck, and then the project never takes flight.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be great. I think.
Yeah.
Time Bean's asking, was Fractured Butthole fun? Did not play that one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was really funny. It was really like the turn-based combat was actually really good. Like like it wasn't just like it wasn't a South Park game with, or like it wasn't a kind of a cheap. It was a fully fledged game in the South Park world. Is what I'm trying to say.
If you were a fan of like the like superheroes, if you enjoy the superhero movies, especially if you really if you were really digging the whole like Marvel superhero universe, and that's something that you can like totally get behind as far as like aesthetics and style and jokes and riffing and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, you're gonna really like it.
The way they riff on
it plays up everything on that, and it's just so well done.
Yeah.
They even have like a little like, the Fox Marvel versus like the MCU Marvel, and there's this little thing in there, a couple little digs there, and then there's a whole dig about like the whole like Civil War, and it's like it's so good, it's so funny.
And of course, the Great Wall of Canada, which was I almost fell off my chair laughing so hard at that. Hi, buddy. What? This is Canada. You can't come in. Screw off. That's right. So Scadril says the 3D South Park game doesn't count. That is right. There was a 3D South Park game made for the N64 way back when. I had forgotten about that.
I believe that it was not. I don't think from what I heard when I was kind of like looking into that a couple of years ago, Matt and Trey didn't really have very much to do with it. They didn't write it, and they only like showed up to do a handful of like voice recording lines, and it was kind of like one of those things that was just outsourced.
Yeah.
And so
fair enough.
I don't like whenever you have that, it's like you're not going to get a good, product from that. It's like the what's one of the most annoying examples? So that Hero Not Hero movie with so Nicolas Cage played this like Batman guy, and then he gets killed, and his daughter ends up like what?
Oh, those ones. The oh well, yeah. What are those called? The ones that are super over the top and Oh yeah. It was named after the titular hero, KickAss.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's why I can't remember it. So KickAss. KickAss 1, probably one of the most brilliant movies in a long time. There was like one musical choice in there where I was like, I rolled my eyes, and it's just a terrible take. But everything else in it was like pretty spot on and was pretty cool. Overall, it was one of the best. Overall, I think it was probably one of the best movies that like early like hero movies that I could possibly think of. It's like right up there with like Iron Man 1. It's like it's just really good. Kick-Ass 2, same actors and everything, but the director and the writer for that were both different. And it was like professional Hollywood stepping in to like be like, oh, now that you've made this amazing series, we're going to step in and we're going to show everybody how Hollywood does this.
Oh, so it's like Star Wars 7 versus Star Wars 8. Gotcha.
Yeah. No, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was. I would not call the first one up there with Iron Man 1, though. That's a bit of a stretch for me. But anyway, I get what you're saying, where it's like where they take an IP and they just outsource it to people who are not involved in that IP at all, and it's just it's basically any other game reskinned as a certain IP.
Yeah, and it was not the fault of the actors. Like the actors did a great job. Like the actors acted their roles as best as they could, but the narrative was just trash, and the whole like the lore was just trash. In the first movie, he's sitting there giving this like talk about he's not.
Are we still talking about Kick-A right now?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I thought you were talking. Because we should really move on. We've been spending.
No, okay, yeah. Let me finish this. So in the first Kick-Ass, they're like he goes on this monologue how he's not Bruce Wayne and he didn't, his parents weren't killed horribly. And then in the second movie, they go up and ahead and do that, and it's like, oh hey, by the way, this thing in the last movie that we said we weren't. Well, now we're like totally not. Now we're totally like going around in that circle, and we don't care. And it was like an excuse for like a whole bunch of like, hey, these people are people who don't actually have superpowers. They're just well trained. Versus like in the second movie, it's like, oh, now we're giving people superpowers. And it's like, what? What? God, like really. So yeah, that was the whole failure there. Anyways, This is one I had to get that out because it's like one of my most favorite hero movies. KickAss 1, one of my least favorites is 2. What is the difference? 2 was run by a bunch of like inner Hollywood elites that were like, oh well, we know how to do this right. You just sit back and watch the real pros do it. And it's like this is why Hollywood, traditional Hollywood, never made any good superhero movies. None. Zero. Zip. And it took the MCU, starting up and building with like a bunch of like no name writers and no name directors with an actor who was like wasn't going to be cast for anything because of all the mistakes that he made, to basically like build this thing from the ground up, and now it's the biggest thing in Hollywood, and all these Hollywood A-listers who years ago couldn't make a Batman movie to save their life are suddenly sitting there going, but hey, we want in on this. Could we please get in on this now? And it's like, no, go away.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point, because this is happening all too often. I mentioned it. We saw this with Star Wars, and we're seeing this with a variety of franchises. Like, just stop taking this. Just make new ideas, people. Make new ideas. Yeah. Unless you're Trey and Matt. Speaking of new
ideas, and kind of branching off a little bit here, just real quick, is like the next Avatar movie. This is another one where it's like I don't think it's going to do well. I don't think it's going to do well. The last Avatar movie was like over a decade ago now. It's like,
yeah, it was a crazy long time ago.
Like, you're continuing the series on, and I mean, it's not even going to come out this year. I think it's like 2021, 2022. It's like, I don't think that movie is going to have the same appeal now, because it's been so many years. And it's one of these things where it's like, when Hollywood does do something right, they don't know how to like properly capitalize on it usually.
I had heard that he had 5 more Avatar movies planned. Is that true? I knew there was at least 2 more coming, but that's pretty ambitious based on based on a movie that was, I don't even remember how well it performed. I mean, I think it did fairly well, but I don't know what critic.
Oh no, it did bonkers. It was, when it came out, it was the highest grossing movie. I think either at or just below the Titanic. So it's like Titanic's number 1, had been for a really long time, and this one ended up placing it like number 2 or ousting in number 1. But it was bonkers. I mean, there were university classes teaching how to speak. What is it called? Navi. Yeah, there were university credits for you to learn Navi, and I knew a lot of people who started learning Navi. And then they suddenly realized that they were the same people who were mocking nerds back in the day for learning Klingon. And then they suddenly were like, yeah, this is like super nerdy, so I'm just going to drop this class then. So yeah, apparently they don't offer Navi classes anymore. But yeah, that's a whole language that's actually real. Like a linguistic guy actually built the whole language. So it's like, wow, impressive, but also maybe like, it's just really funny how that happened.
Well,
but anyways, springboarding from that onto people who don't know how to do things right, we come to our next question, which is there going to be a delay for Wasteland 3? And how good is it going to be? It was kind of a twofold question. Is there a delay? So the delay already happened. It was going to release in May and is now releasing in August. Is there going to be another delay? I don't think so, because they already delayed that game once before as well. Like, it was a soft delay. It wasn't like, hey, we announced a release date and then we moved it again. It was kind of like they were hoping to release in 2019. They ended up having to push it back to 2020. Now they pushed it back to even later in 2020. So I don't think that there's another delay in coming. Is the game going to be good? Gameplay wise, I think it'll be fine as far as like the mechanics of it, because it's a fairly decent process. They have gone a little bit more XCOM than, say, the original concept behind Wasteland 1 and 2, and the concept of it being like a spiritual successor to Fallout 2. Now, is it going to be good? And is it going to be a success? And here's where I say I kind of don't think so. And it basically boils down to a concept that we've talked a lot about before, where game director has a vision that he thinks is great in his head, and then he goes and he does it, and he realize and he's shocked by the fact that nobody plays it or wants to do it or wants to use it. And no, we're getting to cyberpunk stuff. That's the next topic, or next-ish topic. But I think Wasteland's going to fail. Not hard, but it'll probably be critically acclaimed, like these things end up being. But it won't make as much of a profit as they want. And the main reason for that is this game is entirely based in a snow world.
Okay.
When you create a game inside a dreary, drab, lifeless world, that can play towards your success sometimes, but more often than not, it is a serious problem for longevity and mass appeal. Fallout 3 was very well received, and the most constant critique that they had, was that it was dreary, drab, and it didn't look great. It was like depressing to be in. And that's true for like desert-y type like things, but it's also true for like snow worlds, where like the whole world's inside a snow globe basically, and you're playing through snow, more
Right,
snow,
but
snow,
like,
snow.
I mean, the Fallout games are still, I mean, they have that longevity though. In general, not
No, they have critical acclaim. They did not have mass appeal. Fallout 1 and 2 it took Fallout 3 and 4 to really get those games into mass appeal. There's been more copies of Fallout 2 sold post Fallout 3 than there were prior to Fallout 3.
right. But what I'm saying is, like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas are games that still a lot of people play. So I maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but
You're totally misunderstanding the point. So the point is that when and I mean, New Vegas realized this, right? So New Vegas saw, as did Bethesda, they saw that the biggest complaint was the color, was the world, was the depressing, just like it was constantly like depressing as far as the colors went. Not the world. That's a different thing entirely. And so what they did is they increased their color palette to usage by like 200%, 300%, something like that. It's like the main colors that they used were largely like 80% of the colors that they used was within a thin, narrow band on the color spectrum as far as their world building goes. In New Vegas, they quadrupled that. In Fallout 4, they like increased that to almost the entire spectrum. So that's the difference. When you're in Fallout 3, you're only seeing a drab, gray, slightly greenish, but like this gray-green kind of color, and that's the whole everything. That's 80% of what you're going to see. When you go into a game and that's your color palette, you have a single, like one color palette, that it does not function well into mass appeal as far as like keeping people interested.
no, I get that. Yeah, it gets drab looking at the same thing.
That's why desert punk like Mad Max type games, aka Cyberpunk 2077, what you're seeing on the screen, it's a barren, dry wasteland. But right away, there's multiple different colors. You've got green, and I'm talking just environment. You've got green, you've got the sandy stuff. You also have this deep black from the road. That's a wide color palette already. And then when you look at the car, they've got neons and bright colors and that kind of stuff there. So that's the difference. That's why you want to include, to have like it's one of the reasons why you want to have, when you're doing like a type of Mad Max thing, you're going to offset it with extreme colors and styles, and right, and you have that in Mad Max's world too. You've got the desert, the gray, but then you've also got these beautiful like color scenes and these skyboxes and these giant storms that are very colorful and very vibrant. And then their clothes, everybody's clothes are just vibrant and chaotic and wild, right? And that's how, I mean, that was for the older ones too, as well as the newer one. And so this is why certain games fail when they try to do a stylistic choice. You know, we had this with Cliffy B and his moronic choice of having the stylistic choice of having these lawbreakers, these scum of the earth types, and everybody looks at him and goes, "We don't want to play scum of the earth." Like, you know, surprisingly, we don't want to play a coked out, mass murderer. Like, it's just not something that interests us. And I'd rather play the teenage girl from Korea that has a giant robot and dresses like a little bunny rabbit. I would just rather play that than play a methed out coke dealer who went crazy and killed a bunch of people and he's now on death row. It's like, out of those two stories, one is very interesting to most people and the other is not interesting to most everybody except for a small subsection of the world that thinks that that's cool. And this is, I think, is what we're going to experience with Wasteland 3, unfortunately.
You think the stylistic choice is just not...
Their stylistic choice is a bad idea. And the gameplay, they've simplified it. And this is Arton, I think. Am I getting that name right?
Araton?
I don't know how to pronounce it. Araton. This is where I think you were talking about more so on this. It's like they've kind of, so they've simplified it at the same time as like done stylistic choices with the gameplay that I don't think marry up to necessarily a good idea. Now, again, I could be wrong. I certainly hope I am, because this is a game where this is the spiritual successor to basically Fallout 2. But I worry about the RPG choices because you had a fair amount of RPG choices in Wasteland 2, but they really seem to have backed off of that. And now it's basically just I don't know, it feels like an isometric version of like Borderlands without the choice. Like it feels like it's like that was my big complaint with like XCOM. The whole XCOM series is like it's a really interesting world, and I was really like wrapped up into it while I was playing this through the storyline, meeting all the characters. But then once I got done and I didn't have any like RPG scenes to go through anymore, no like choices, or it was just like, recruit, do this mission, kill stuff, done, congratulations, Commander, you're awesome. It's like, I lost interest pretty quickly after that, because what I was hoping to have and what I was hoping to see was an expanding world of story and choice, and there was none. And you look back at like Jagged Alliance 2, probably the best game of this genre, the isometric turn-based shooter. I mean, it even beats a Fallout 2 hands down when it comes to like combat and complexity of combat. You just didn't have, like, you had so much choice and you had so much story content. It's like, if your characters get captured and you have to like forcibly surrender some of your heroes, you can rescue them before they're executed. You can't do that in almost any of these other games. Like, I can't even think of another. I mean, I could barely think of most games where it's like in a random world where you have random heroes and random encounters, where if you just randomly have a bunch of your characters get kidnapped, you can go on a rescue mission at the prison and bust them out. Like, that's a concept that was like, sure, it's kind of scripted in there, but it's also something that just you just sit back and you go, wow, like that's completely new, like as far as this goes. And like like you can recruit people from all over the place. You could go and recruit a bunch of like civilians who are just fed up with the tyranny. You can have an entire team based off of like free people from that place that you're going in to save. You don't have to have these high level, like high, rich mercenary people. You can make it a homegrown thing if you want to. You can also turn around and have it be, this like recruited team based off of like this like no name brand new like mercenary recruiting thing that has whatever, and they're just like a bunch of like they're not even B-listers, they're like C or D listers. It's like, eh, that's not bad, but and again, getting back to Wasteland 2, it's like there was a handful of that story and that role play and that like interactability, and like you're like you're a lone ranger going out into the world to set things right, and you meet interesting people along the way. There was a little bit, there wasn't as much as I wanted, and I ultimately like lost the plot on that one because the world didn't seem real anymore. It was just like fight encounter, like perform a perfect kill. And it's like, this is one of the reasons why I stopped playing MMOs was, if I want, I can be a top ranked MMO player. I mean, I'm not like I was at one point, in the top 10 list of tanks worldwide. I could do that, and when I went back to World of Warcraft in 2018 for like a couple of months. I found that my skills hadn't really gone down at all. But the thing that interested me was the people, and you could find a raid group just by hitting find me a raid group, and there was no need to communicate, like almost no need to communicate. Most fights there was no need to communicate. One or two fights there was a little bit of a need to communicate. And I was like, wow, there's no people here. I'm not interested in this anymore because I can't, there's not a personality. Like, I'm not dealing with people. So I might be tempted to stream it and build the community that way. But as far as like modern MMOs have really lost that sense of community. I used to know in my old guilds back in like vanilla, I used to know everybody by name, their real names, used to know their schedule, used to know who they were dating, and what jobs they had. It's like, now you don't get that. You really don't get that. I play with a couple of people online that I know like that, but it's few and far between. And so this sense of like, is like, yeah, I could be a badass if I want to be in a story like Wasteland, 2 and 3, but if there's no story there that's really interesting to like speak with people and to interact with people, it's like, what's the point? Like, sure, can play awesome. League is kind of like that too. It's like, yeah, I can do some amazing stuff with League of Legends. But if there's nobody to share that with, if there's no friends to be like, wow, that was amazing, yeah, that was so cool, it's like, hey, see you tomorrow. It's like, if you got none of that, it's like,
Rage 2 had that problem too. Amazing combat system, one of the best first FPS combat systems I've seen in a game, but that was it. The story was very short, very mediocre, so it was just, I lost interest in it very quickly. All right.
Well, time being points out in the chat, she's been playing multiplayer because it's to hang out with friends. It's not to be like, oh, look at this cool stuff that I got. It's like that's very secondary to just hanging out with people. My favorite thing to do in MMOs was to take a group of stay-at-home moms, some older retiree guys, a handful of like super nerdy, hard to focus kids, and say, you know what? I'm going to take you guys and I'm going to turn you into the best raid group there is, not only on this server, but this whole server group. And we're going to place like top 10 worldwide. And everybody's like, no, you can't do that with a bunch of like stay-at-home moms. Like, girls don't know how to play games, don't you know? Nah. It's like take that, turn them into this amazing fighting force, and then be like, yeah, we can do that. But now there's no reward for that. There's no like, well, I mean, there's sort of a reward.
And then send them on their way with a tear in your eye, and you're like, the pupils have become the masters. Yes.
Yeah.
That was Cyb's life. Okay. Lots to talk about, so we should move on here. People are itching for the Cyberpunk content, so I think we should talk about that next. Of course, coming up later, we're going to talk about Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. But yeah, let's get into the Cyberpunk stuff, because this is really cool. So, Cyberpunk 2077 Twitter account in kind of, I guess, celebration of the 5th anniversary of Mad Max Fury Road, which may seem random, but Mad Max was a heavy inspiration on Cyberpunk. And especially the Nomad life path and the Badlands outside of Night City, that kind of a thing. So there is a connection there. But they tweeted out this spinning GIF. You know what? Here, I'm actually going to I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. So
it makes me dizzy, man.
I mean, don't if you're prone to motion sickness, maybe don't watch. But so this is what they put up on Twitter.
Yeah, no, I should make it clear. The reason why it makes me nauseous is because this is not in-game capture. Well, I mean, it is in-game capture, but this is a GIF.
It's a GIF, so it's very
GIF
choppy, very low frame rate, very low quality.
Yes. Yeah. And this is like, there's a GIF of this that's out on Twitter. The GIF on Twitter is like half of this. This is the one that they released on their Discord.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's almost 100 megs. The GIF one on Twitter, I think, is like 15 megs. So it's like,
yeah, the one on Twitter is very bad. But anyway, this is what they tweeted out, and I took stills of it just so we don't have to watch it spinning constantly. I took stills of it at various angles, and so we're gonna look at what we see in the background and what we can see about the car. But anyway, it was this is the Reaver, a custom-built Wraith Gang vehicle based on the Quadra Type 66 car. And the tweet says, with its near 1,000 horsepower, you will ride eternal, shiny, and chrome.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is an obvious reference to the whole
exactly
thing. I'm hoping now that you can have a chrome spray paint that you can like paint over your teeth and lips and be like, yeah, what a lovely day, a lovely day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can chromify any part of your body, I think. I don't know if it's a spray, but you can definitely chromify yourself.
We don't know if that's a
not in game feature.
That
I'm just saying in the Cyberpunk concept in general, chromifying yourself is definitely a thing. So anyway, this has sparked a lot of conversation about, the driving in the game. Will there be customizable vehicles? I can English. Things like that. I think the driving is definitely something that Fallout 4 was lacking. Was like vehicles and things like that. Now, granted, the tech was, there are tech limitations, but they seem to have overcome those kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, it kind of looks like you've got this, at least outside the city. Within the city, there's probably defined roads that you have to drive on, but it's looking like outside the city there might be, the driving might be more open, and it would be very unfortunate if they kind of limited you to, like, put invisible walls up so you can't, like, drive off-road and stuff like that. I don't even think that would work with the Nomad. Like, if you are playing as a Nomad, I don't think that would work at all. But anyway, pretty sick car. I would imagine. What do we know about vehicle customization?
It still has yet to be confirmed.
Yet to be confirmed. Okay.
It still has yet to be confirmed. Some of the reason for that is that when you make something customizable, you increase the complexity of the model. And when they're driving with a static car, they're already pushing the FPS and the smoothness of the experience to on the older consoles. They're pushing that to its absolute limit. The console is like 2 inches from having a heart attack at that point. Now, obviously, if you're playing this on PC and if you're playing this, on an upgraded console in the future, it's not going to matter, right? It's not going to matter nearly as much as as it does right now. But currently, right now, it's very much a worry because your system's just not it's just not built for this. And so that's why they haven't announced it, because can they add it? Yes, they can. Do they have the setup with the cars? We don't know about that yet. We assume that yes, they would. Like, but it depends. So the cars, if the vehicles are built like with a modular system that they can like drop in parts to make it look different, then yeah, it'll be really easy to like customize a car. But if the car is like if each, say there's like 3 cars, 2 trucks, and 3 motorbikes, and they've created a custom rig for each of those vehicles. So for each of those vehicles, they share some of the same programming as far as like driving goes, the concept of it, but as far as like when you're handling it, when you're getting into the vehicle, it's a completely different vehicle. Like the
Right.
truck is, each of the trucks have like 4 or 5 inches worth of difference to the suspension, right? That kind of stuff. If that's the system that they went with, so that instead of having a basic model with like additional, parts that you add and subtract to it, if it's that kind of a system versus the system where it's a very static thing, it's a lot harder to customize the static thing aside from a paint job. Like paint job would be easy, but like you want to like drop out the tires and put like big, honking tires, raise up the suspension on it. Like you can do with like in a lot of racing games where you can customize your rig quite quickly. That suddenly is going to become like that's if it's static, no, and they're gonna have to add that in with a major overhaul to that mechanics of the driving system. And when you're driving in the vanilla version post this patch, if it ever comes out, or if this is a thing, or if this is even how they did it, then you're going to experience a different experience while driving each car. You'll have 1 car that they based it off of, and then they added the ability to tweak it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's quite a unique option. Like it really is. It's quite
Yeah.
quite
What
bizarre.
about just visual customization? Like if you wanted to change the paint job on the side kind of thing?
Oh, easy. Yeah. That like I said, if you have a static system for these vehicles, you can always change the paint job, right?
Yeah, but
That's no different than
do we know if that kind of feature is going to be in there? Or is it
we don't.
still,
Again,
we're
that
still
hasn't
waiting
been
on confirmation.
that nothing has been confirmed, because when they say, if they were to say yes, you can customize your car and mean only painting a paint job, that is going to result in some negativity versus, if they said yes to that. They've already experienced this problem when it comes to the third person stuff. They told certain people through certain, well, not CDPR didn't tell people, but it got out that there was, yes, third person and first person. And even as they progressed through the game, right up until they basically made this announcement, yes, it's still third person and first person. We've kept that as a thing because you can third person your car. And when people found out that the announcement came out that like, yeah, you still third person your car, but everything else is first person, people were upset. A lot of people were upset. Not just a small number of people, a lot of people were upset. So the realization came down is that they have to choose their words when announcing various features very carefully.
Yeah. No,
Because
I
people
get
freak
that for
out
sure. Yeah.
on a single word, right? So when they say, yeah, so you can customize your car, but we only mean paint job, that's going to mean something completely different to everybody listening. So they have to either make that extremely clear that yes, you can change the paint on your car, to yes, you can change out the suspension and tires and body armor and lights and that kind of stuff. That's going to be 2 totally different things. And so people will translate the simple concept. Again, even if they put out an article tomorrow an interview, and they're like, yeah, so we've decided that we're going to have some car customization. It's going to be pretty limited. You're going to be able to pick a wide variety of like different types of skins for each of the cars. So we're going to have this muscle car that's this nomad type car. That's the one we're looking at right now, versus like this inner street racing car from the city. And both of these options are going to be there, and you're going to use one or the other depending on your personal taste. And then you're going to be able to customize the skins. No deep customization, no change of suspension or anything like that. Just this kind of basic kind of stuff. It's going to be really cool. If they said that in an interview tomorrow, that would be summed up in a tweet or an article with car customization. Yeah. Even if that article or tweet has car customization but limited options, you're still going to have some person out there who's going to play the game and then write a hate text or email, post, Twitter, whatever, about how they are so disappointed because they were promised car customization, and there's only the only ability to do is change the paint job. And that's not car customization. They read an article that said you were going to have car customization. And so that's what they don't want to get into, because that's just like in the day where bad press can actually hurt you. There used to be the saying, there's no such thing as bad press. That is not true anymore. Bad press is killing companies. It's killing the press in many ways too. I mean, we had like, we've had like 500-600 layoffs in the last like week alone in major news companies. News companies that used to be, just 2 or 3 years ago were the new up and coming brand new biggest thing ever in the history of mankind, and now suddenly like 2 of them got closed down and 155 people got laid off. It's like, well, I guess you're not the big hot up and coming thing anymore, right? And so bad press actually hurts these today. And just a misinterpretation by one person it's not good. It's one of the many reasons why we stopped doing like leaks on the game, because we realized that some of the bad press or the way that we would say things would be misinterpreted, and then that would make people upset about the game. And it's like, oh, well, that, and they kind of asked us really nicely to stop putting out leaks, and they've been really good to us. So we're like, okay, all right, that's fine. I'm not going to spoil anything that you haven't announced yet. We're still going to give you the inside scoop, and if you listen a lot, you're still going to get lots of, I'm winking now at you moments too. So I mean, you're still good with us, but yeah, it's this whole concept of you can't really trust, what you read, on the paper and what you see immediately. So this is what they're trying to avoid, is they're trying to avoid making a commitment to something that may or may not be construed as the same thing. So instead, what they'll do is they'll wait. I believe what we're going to see before the game goes live, if there is customization for vehicles, I'm almost guaranteed that you will see this. In one of their gameplay sessions, they will roll the car up to wherever you do the customization on it, and they will go through the option of customizations. It might not have everything there. Probably, like, guarantee you it's not going to have everything there. But you're going to see some of the things that are, quote, changeable. So they're going to go through the options menu, right? You're going to see like 5 or 6, 10, 20, probably 5 or 6 things that you can change on the car. If there's going to be customization, that's what they'll do. So they'll roll in, they'll show that menu. Again, you won't see all of the different options for the car, but just seeing that list will answer most people's question, because instead of them saying something that can then be misconstrued, it's just a screenshot that is then put out. And you look at the screenshot, and then most people who are into car customization and who are buying this game for car customization, they're going to be able to look at that screenshot and say, aha, I understand what this is now. And then they're going to be able to take that and translate that directly into the game. And the reason why we haven't seen it up to this point, well, is because it's coming. It's not a huge thing of the game, but it is a thing in the game, but it's not the most important thing in the game. And what we're going to end up, that's going to probably end up being like a, if they do have car customization, that's definitely going to be like a late stage advertisement thing. So like last 2 months before, 2 or 3 months before the game comes out, that's when they would introduce or showcase that feature as part of the hype train leading up to release.
Speaking of
So,
which,
yeah.
Night City. Oh shoot! I just had it in my head. What is it called? June 11th. The event they're doing. It's going to be great. Stuff will be shown, and so we will definitely cover that. So slam the subscribe button and get notified when we put out any content or go live to cover that info that's going to be coming out. All right, so let's talk about now let's talk about what's going on behind the car. And we're going to look at this from several different angles because we've got a pretty barren-looking wasteland, California desert happening here, and yet, I mean, you do get the good splashes of color. It is really nice that, they've contrasted it with, the neon colors on the car. There's some solid green. That's the nice thing about this world as opposed to Fallout is that in this world, not everything is just dead, right? It's not just all dead trees. You do have greenery and stuff.
It's pretty like the desert in the background is clearly a desert, right?
Yeah.
Like it's clearly a desert. So, I mean, it's not some like super sci-fi desert with like glowing blue trees and stuff like that. But it has color. Like the top of that one mountain there, it's a very dark color. Then you have the lighter sandy color coming down it. You've got vegetation, greenery, different color rock here and there. It looks good. I mean, it looks really solid. And how much of that is going to be you can drive off road? We don't know yet, but I mean, it looks pretty off-roadable.
It does look like it. It doesn't look like, and I mean, yeah, I'll be annoyed if there are sort of false, like invisible walls or artificial barriers that prevent you from off-roading and stuff. I just wonder if like those mountains in the background, if you can drive up there, or if that's kind of the border of the world. How big this space is going to be. I imagine it's going to be fairly big, but it's hard to tell.
Here we have another thing when it comes to like the open worldness, right? We've talked about this a fair bit, and we've looked at, I spent a little time looking at Witcher 3 again because this whole question of like how big is the world, right? They are quite literal in their interpretation of like they have a playable world and then they have the open world, right? It's like right now we know that their world is bigger than The Witcher 3 in just sheer size by several times because of just the roads. So just the road networks that you drive your car on from place to place, from hub to hub. The roads alone are large and massive. They don't technically want to count that as gameplay world because they don't see it as gameplay world. And I mean, that's kind of respectable, right? Because I know a lot of games that brag on the size of their world by just adding in, 5 square kilometers worth of absolutely nothing. And then they say, yeah, look at the size of the game
big
world.
empty fields and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, but there's nothing out in those worlds. It's like, yeah, but it's there, right? It's kind of like, it's like some other games, like so, there's a handful of games that have open worlds that have like lots of oceanfront property, and there's lots of like underwater place, and they count all of that in as far as their gameplay world, but they don't even put in sunken treasure chests into the water. There's nothing under the water. There's like some stuff along the coast, but when you get into the water, there's nothing there. And I mean, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 had this as a problem, and they finally like started to like include more Easter eggs under the water because they've discovered that people really like exploring the water, and I really like exploring the water. I really like swimming around and like diving around and checking out stuff that's hidden down below because you find like this. It's such a cool place to bury stuff or to like hide little like Easter eggs and stuff like that. But there's a lot of games that just don't have that. And then they have the audacity to claim that all that territory is gameplay world. It's like, yeah, it's sort of gameplay world,
Yeah,
but there's nothing there.
the sheer size of your game world, I don't think is
Mm-hmm.
a selling point anymore, because we've all experienced those massive empty worlds where there's nothing going on.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of places in The Witcher where it's like, hey, let's get on our horses and ride in this one direction, right? Because it's like, let's not walk, let's ride the horses, because it's a really long distance. You ride for 30 seconds or less, 30 seconds or less at a trot. It's like, that's not what we have in
Yeah.
Cyberpunk. In Cyberpunk, we have, you're driving, minutes at 100 clicks an hour down the road. We know that this is a thing that you can do, is that you can drive these vast distances. Now, again, for some odd reason, some people at the company, they don't want to claim that this is, quote, gameplay world, that this mapping is, yes, it's technically larger, but they don't want to give you the false impression that the world has more gameplay experience in it than The Witcher does, because they don't want to mislead you. And that's what's so great about this company. It's like their primary concern is they don't want to accidentally mislead somebody. It's like, if this was EA making this game, they'd be all like, "Oh yeah, blah 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 blah. It's got 40 hours of explorable side content," where really it's just one quest and from a guy who sells a potato, right? If
And
this
it
was
takes you
Bethesda,
40 hours to go find the potato. Or
if
to
this was
deliver
Bethesda,
the potato.
Todd Howard would be up there claiming that it's got 8,000 times the detail than their previous game. 8,000 times the detail. There's 80 bajillion quest givers. Well, actually, that's just a random number thing that he pulled out of his butt because, right? It's like, if this was other companies working on this, we wouldn't get this level of honesty and this level of like, well, we don't want to mislead you by telling you something that's not necessarily accurate. It's like, wow, CDPR is looking at their customers and saying, we don't want to mistreat you guys. Meanwhile, you've got other companies that are like, hey, you're talking about a game? We're going to sue you into the ground. We're going to take away your ability to make money. We're going to destroy you personally. We're going to send goons to your house and threaten you with lawsuits. We're going to threaten your parents with lawsuits. You know what? We're going to threaten your girlfriend and your girlfriend's parents with lawsuits. That way, we destroy your love life on top of destroying your personal life, your business life, and everything else. Like, wow, what a difference. What a difference actually respecting your fans makes.
Absolutely.
Like, my goodness.
So, we should get on to talking about the rest of these images, but we're at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to say this is the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thanks so much, everybody, for the being so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members. A lot of the fine folks that you're seeing in the live chat right now are there. Lots of fun conversations happening there all the time. You can stay up to date about what we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel, by the way. If you haven't already, please do slam that like button. Paulie's 911 earlier in the chat said he's been slamming it so hard that it's now calling him constantly for child support. We really appreciate that. Thanks for taking one for the team.
Just while you're pulling up those videos, I just want to briefly talk about something that's in the news as far as YouTube goes. Right now, apparently there's an exploit going around that is allowing people to gain access to your account. It doesn't look like they're gaining access to everything on your account, but they're gaining access to certain things on your account or being able to disrupt your password. And it appears as if this is being done through an exploit through Discord, auto-linking, and chat features on not live chat, not the live chat on the live streams, but the comment section of the chat below posted videos. So where you click on that stuff. Apparently there's an exploit going around. I had been hearing about this since about April. I hadn't seen any like confirmation of it, and I didn't want to bother setting up an account to kind of like dig into it because I've been really busy. But yesterday, some videos came out. Some people have been posting about this, and this had some security friends of mine kind of look into it and confirm, yeah, it's a thing. We don't know if the everything being reported is accurate. We don't know how much of it is. It's kind of a little confusing. So the investigation is kind of ongoing, but enough people have confirmed that there is some very shady stuff going on here. Again, we don't know the validity of exactly how these things are working, but it does appear as if it's working on at least some level.
Yeah.
So in the meantime,
This is that wannabe friends
yeah.
thing. So if you see those comments, ask that are clearly bots, and we've been getting them for ages, and I just
Yeah.
block the accounts because they're clearly just bot spam. But we didn't realize it was as insidious as it was. Apparently, subscribing to those accounts or possibly even interacting with the comments somehow opens you up to this exploit by these people.
Mm-hmm. And I mean the proof in the video, the proof on the channel that seems to be making the most gain from this is from a fellow who, I mean, like, they don't really know how to make videos, they don't really know how to do stuff, but they've got and I mean, even in the best case scenario, you have like 10% interaction, right? So you put out a video, if 1,000 people watch a video and you've got 100 likes, that's really good. Most of the time you have between a 10% ratio and a 1% ratio. So if you get 10 likes and comments, that's actually within the border of what you would normally expect. If you're sitting at a 20 or 30% like ratio, so like, again, 1,000 views and you've got 300 likes, that's amazing. That is metrics that are truly amazing. This guy's videos got 50,000 views and like 40,000 likes and like 40,000 comments. That is impossible.
Unless you're hacking, unless you're stealing, a whole bunch of accounts and getting them to...
There are people who make videos of like, dying child's last wish is to get 100,000 likes on a video, and people share these things around, and you get like 30,000 likes out of 100,000. That's nowhere near 80%. 80%. There's something fishy going on there just from the numbers.
Yeah.
And then when you dig into it, you actually find that this person has been posting. They post once every like they post like 10 posts every like 2.0 seconds. So it's like obviously it's a bot, right? Obviously they're using some botting programs to send likes out on stuff. And they're also like really cocky too, which, I mean, any hacker that's really good is going to be cocky typically, at least inside a certain scenario, and this guy definitely fits the brush. So for the time being, like I said, we don't know how much of this is clever marketing versus like an actual hack. There could be a lot of stuff on it, but there was enough of a concern yesterday that I felt like I should mention it. So I'm going to mention it and be like, hey, just so you guys know, like, subscribe, comment on our videos. But if you see anything fishy, if you see like a fishy kind of response, just, for the time being, and just generally is a good thing, is like, just add another comment. Don't reply to that particular comment. You can add another comment anywhere on the video and just be like, hey, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, just try to avoid clicking on comments. Always don't click on links in a comment section. Like, clicking on links in a comment section is a great way to get yourself in hot water, especially when it takes you to a foreign site that you don't recognize. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
All right. So yes, basic internet safety. Not even just basic internet safety. This is a very unique problem, and I'm surprised that it actually exists. And YouTube hopefully needs to get on this. All right. Let's get back to these Cyberpunk images. So I'm going to switch to the next image of the car, which is rotated a little ways around, and so we get a shot down the road. And we see the power lines here along the side of the road. And way in the distance, we can see what looks like is possibly a silhouette of Night City. So it gives you an idea of the distance scale here. And I mean, we don't know how far you can drive in the other direction, but yeah.
Well, we don't know how much of the distance between here and Night City is drivable either. Could be that you when you choose to like head out to the Badlands, that this is where you end up after going through kind of like a loading screen or a thingy. We don't know if there's a way to actually like get in a vehicle and drive the road from here into Night City. Right now, I strongly suspect that is not a thing. I strongly suspect that is not a thing. We know that there's different cells loaded for different areas of the world. This is how their engine worked before, probably how their engine is going to work again. They said no loading screens. Now,
they were working on
cleverly described as like it might be cleverly hidden as a loading screen, because if this is real, if you can drive from here to that, and if that is Night City, I mean, you're not just talking like this is not just like a small. This is not a small distance. This is like Witcher 3 times 1,000, because that's the space that you've got from here to there. Like I mean,
slight exaggeration, but yeah, it's a long ways, but it is a long ways of just desert. Looks like. I mean, there's no visible structures between here and the city. Now there is a structure beside where the car is. We'll see it in a second here on the other side of the road. But yeah, there might be one of those disguised loading areas, like just kind of a vast desert area, like just a bunch of sand or something right outside the city, and as you're driving over that, it's loading the next area, like those kinds of things that they sometimes do. Anyway, we'll see. We're kind of speculating because we don't know how this works specifically, but I'm going to switch to the next image here. You can see the graphic on the other side of the car, and then you can see we've got this enclosed area coming up. Okay, there's not actually I'm just going to switch over to the next one. So you see this kind of power station or something or other that is sort of a location that's out here in the desert, obviously, that you're able to visit. So I get a very Fallout-esque vibe from this, and joked on our Discord server last night, if Cyberpunk 2077 turned out to be a better Fallout game than Fallout, wouldn't that just take the cake? Wouldn't that just be precious? So anyway, we get a bit of a glimpse of what the kinds of locations we're going to encounter in the Badlands here. By the way, it was the Wraiths gang is apparently like they're a gang from established Cyberpunk lore. Mad Queen was very excited about this because they're apparently like the worst of the worst as far as the Nomad gangs, and so they're gonna have a presence in the game. It looks like there's probably some interactions with them as you're zipping around the Badlands in your car, which may or may not be customizable. Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any comments about this particular area? I mean, it's just kind of a standard kind of looks like a big power hub of some kind.
I think they're here obviously to go up those stairs, right? So this is a location where you're probably meeting somebody or doing something here. You're going up those stairs, climbing up this tower or building or whatever this is over here to like meet up with somebody, deliver something, or kill somebody. So yeah, that's part of it. Obviously we've got power there, or there could be a this could be where they make some power. There might be a solar farm somewhere nearby, and they're actually sending the power out instead of taking the power in. So there's a whole bunch of different possibilities. The plant life looks pretty solid, but the location here is like, obviously there's something going on here at this place, and obviously you're here to talk to somebody or to interact with somebody on some level.
Yeah.
So that seems to be what's going on here. I joked on Twitter yesterday. I'm like, oh yes, and don't forget about that secret location over behind that hill over there. It's gonna be pretty cool. There's gonna be something cool there. So yeah, there's that. And again, it's like we don't know how much you can explore this, but hopefully you can explore a lot. So,
For those
but
of you
no,
trying to
there's
read the words in the scene, they're all because these are still frames of an animated GIF. It's going to be nearly impossible to read what these signs and things are saying and what's written on the tires. Yeah, I was trying to make out this sign you see in this shot. There's a sign on the fence on the left-hand side. I was trying to make out what that says, but had no luck with that. So we've come to the end of the road here, so there's these concrete barriers in the way. So that's just kind of indicating the end of the road. No indication of if you can drive on past that. Now, some people were saying, pointing out that there's this mountain in this particular, when you look in this direction, there's the one mountain, you see it here in this shot on the right-hand side, where the textures aren't loaded. So, I don't know. That's a weird thing to be happening at this stage of development, don't you think?
well, I mean, probably like it might have been something that they didn't actually like intentionally catch,
Yeah.
or it could be, or that's not a mountain and that's a sand hill. From, like, some
I
of
said
the
yeah I
bigger-
joked yesterday it's a big pile of salt. It's where they put all the salt from the tears of the haters. They got to put it somewhere. So as you were saying, like there's a reason people really like CD Projekt Red, and it's all the well the reasons that Cy mentioned earlier plus a bunch of other reasons. And so we get these articles every now and then from the mainstream gaming media. It's like, you need to not like them as much. They're just same as any other company. No, they're not. Yeah, they've got their flaws, but they're not just the same as any other gaming company. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. If you don't understand why people are fans of this company, then you just don't understand gamers right now. Speaking to the media, who are supposed to be up on these kinds of things, right? I'm not speaking to the general public. If you don't know why we like Cyberpunk or why we like CD Projekt Red
which is
so
totally
much,
fine because I mean,
we'll explain it because it's
like I've never completed a full playthrough of the Witcher games. I played the Witcher games. I've seen the Witcher games. I've watched a lot about them, but I've never played it because it's like all the way through. I've never played it all the way through because it's I don't find Geralt that much of an interesting character. I know I'm going to get crucified in the comments now, but it's like I don't actually find like tall white guy, moody white guy to actually be that interesting, probably because I am a tall, moody white guy. So yeah, but it doesn't mean that I disrespect him less, or that I still think Witcher is one of the greatest Witcher 3, one of the greatest games ever made. I think Witcher 1 was outstanding for its time and really pushing the boundary of like what's going on, and I would definitely vote for those games. And I've played enough of them to say that yes, these are definitely top tier games. I've never been compelled to like play it all the way through. Instead, I just watch other people do it, or I read, because it's just there's a point where it's like I've got too much to do, and this is one of these things where it's like I don't find moody white guy interesting.
But you get to play as Ciri. Actually, there's a mod where you can swap whenever you want between Geralt and Ciri. Maybe you'd like that. Anyway,
I want a customizable character. That'd be great. Customizable character with third person.
It would be cool. I mean, if it wasn't based on an existing story IP, then that would make more sense. But, yeah, I mean, it's possible that in future Witcher games they'll let you make a custom Witcher. That you never know. Okay, this is just kind of an angle slightly off of the one we just saw. You see Salt Mountain there in the background and more of the desert. So yes, I'm very curious how far the boundaries extend.
Yeah. I think, yeah, part of me says that we're going to have some invisible walls somewhere, but it would be a real shame if they didn't let us like off-road at least a little bit.
There obviously has to be a boundary to the world somewhere, but I am much more a fan of natural boundaries, like water or like a cliff face that you can't scale, that kind of a thing. A city wall, maybe. But whenever you hit those, when you hit those invisible walls in games, I hate that. It's like so immersion breaking, and it's like, I can see stuff over there. Let me go there.
Yeah, but I mean, it does come a question is like, well, where do you draw the line?
I realize that it's necessary in some cases,
you
but
gotta draw the line somewhere.
if you can avoid it, I prefer that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why even what's the game I was playing? Oh yeah, it was Doom Eternal. Even though all the levels in that game are like on humongous cliffs, like elevated way, way, way above these bottomless pits, which after a while it's like, oh, we're on another massive plateau, like thousands of miles above the ground. Okay. You can still, like, at least that provides a natural boundary. Like, it's like, okay, I can't go there or I just fall off to my death, right? Like, it's more natural than just putting an invisible wall you can't pass. So, whatever works, I don't know. Those invisible walls irk me. Anyway, we got to get on to a couple more topics before we wrap up here today. So, let's talk, quickly about Ghost of Tsushima, and then we'll get on to the Sony stuff. So, Ghost of Tsushima gameplay was released, 16 or so minutes of it. And, I actually just watched it this morning before we started. Was pretty, I don't know. I'm undecided about this game. It's going to be, it's a PlayStation title, and I don't have a PlayStation, so that's, it didn't make me want to run out and buy a PlayStation, though. You know what I mean? It looked like, I don't know. The world was beautiful, but the gameplay looked pretty generic. It was cool that they showcased some of the different play styles that you can do. You can be the honorable samurai, or you can be the dishonorable ghost. There's probably a variety of things in between. The visual customization. Actually, I thought it was cool that the armor types you can pick, you're not just picking a visual style, but they have each type of armor has its own attributes, and but you can still customize the colors of them. So, it had some good things, but it seemed, I didn't see anything particularly innovative about it. You know what I mean? What did you think, Seb?
It looks solid. I don't want you guys to get mad at me, but it's like, I don't know how much there is to grow on a combat system that's based off of this kind of stuff. So again, it's not to say that it's a bad combat or looks terrible or anything like that. It's to say that I think it's going to be great for what it is, great for the genre that it's in. I think stylistically, visually, it's really amazing. I really like the whole, like, the fight scene with like leaves or blossoms blowing in the wind. It's like, I love that kind of stuff. I just wrote a scene about that kind of stuff, and it's great. I love it. It's very, very artistic, very dynamic. But I don't think this is going to set any new standards as far as gameplay or a lot of like building in directions that we've never gone before. I think we're just going to have a game. Like, it's just
an open, kind of a. It looked very generic. I hate to say it. Visually, generic. The gameplay looked very generic. The world looked beautiful.
Yes, absolutely.
The world,
which they normally do. Like, that's kind of what they do.
Yeah,
right?
the world looked really great. The ancient Japan kind of setting is really, it's one that I particularly enjoy. I really enjoyed Sekiro, and maybe I'm comparing it to Sekiro. Maybe that's why it looked kind of generic to me, but it did. I felt the animations, especially the combat animations, looked really stiff, and nothing terribly innovative. Which doesn't mean it's bad. but it looked average, and I think that the story is going to make or break this game. Like if it had,
and I think this is one of the, and I think the story is probably going to be great, because the writers that they have for this are actually like really really good, and they're based out of Japan. So I think that you're going to have an amazing story here. But again, as far as the gameplay goes, you're not going to see anything new. Like it's again, we're missing the technology advancements to have something that is truly dynamic. And often what you end up having in this kind of game is you kind of have the same like quick button mash type like quick time event slash stuff. And I mean that's so old. It's like you know, my grandmother was around for, you know, turn of the last century, and it's like, wow, this, you know, I mean, even when she was a kid, she was doing this kind of stuff. It's like it's an old mechanic. Can we just let it go now? But no, it's probably going to be around for a really long time. And
wait,
I mean,
what are we talking about?
Which button
mechanic?
mash and quick time events. But like just button mash combat / quick time events.
Button mash combat, I agree, but if it's timing based combat can be really good if it's done well. That was the sort of that's like the Sekiro, Dark Souls kind of combat. You know, it's yeah. So I mean,
well, again, I don't know about that. I mean, I've played a lot of these like Dark Souls, like, ooh, this is the hardest game I've ever played. I play through it and I'm like, what is everybody talking about? But then again, that's me. I don't know. Polly's, thank you for the super chat. Ghost of game I would buy it if it was on PC. Sadly, the developers chose to keep it exclusive. For me, this is their loss, not mine. I just gotta send my cash for other games instead of the like AC Valhalla. True. And this is where I think PlayStation's starting to lose the message, right? This is where I think, you know, more and more, one of the biggest controversies of the last year and a half was let us play games where we want to play games. And Microsoft got this message loud and clear. And I think you're going to see them do a lot better in this next generation than Sony will. I think you will 100% see the Xbox undersold by almost $100 versus the PlayStation. I think you will see a special, a lot of games, a lot of things become cross-platform. So that you pick it up on PC, you pick it up for Xbox, and you can bounce between those two on a single purchase. I think you're going to see some of that stuff, especially, like, I mean, guaranteed as far as the Microsoft Store goes. Whether that'll cross over into other things like Steam and other platforms, we don't quite know yet. But they're making a lot of choices that people have been asking for in general. And what I keep seeing with Sony is I keep seeing the same thing over and over and over and over again, where you're like, my goodness, you guys, do you understand how terrible this choice is to have your game focus exclusively on this concept of like, well, you don't care about the players being able to like experience this outside of it. And the culture I mean, even the culture in some of this stuff is kind of disturbing, right? It's like they came out with the PC version of Horizon Zero Dawn, and you had a subsection, a very small subsection, but it's a section of the player base there who were like, "How dare you? How dare you give this game to people playing on PC? That's disgusting. I hate you." And it's like, whoa, what is wrong with you? They don't deserve it. This is only for so, and it's like this concept is going to lead to destruction for Sony. Like it's just a bad place to be in. With everything else that they've been doing, this is something that they should definitely not be doing. And apparently, this is something that's now becoming the driving force behind their fandom. And I think it'll get worse, because I think when people are having that debate and they're having that conversation between their friends, and they're like, so yeah, I was thinking maybe switching back to Xbox. You what? I'm sorry, but we can't be friends anymore. Like, why? Well, because Sony's perfect. Don't you understand? They're perfect. And it's like, well, I mean, I was just looking at it. It's like the Xbox has some things that I was kind of hoping for. You are dead to me. And it's like, expect some of that. And again,
I wouldn't expect a lot of that, though. I mean,
no, I said some. I expect some of that. Not a lot of it. I
just want to reemphasize, because we do get some strong reactions sometimes when PlayStation comes up and you mention some of this stuff. That
again, I'm talking about
you're talking about a very small minority
subsection.
Yes. Just want to make that clear.
And I mean, you had this with Xbox last generation, right? You had some people that Microsoft got up onto the stage, they stabbed themselves in the stomach multiple times, screaming about how this was for your own good and that everybody wants a home entertainment system, and then they fell over, and there were still people who got up on that stage and tried to defend them. So it's not an exclusive problem to Sony, but in this generation, we're going to see it get bad. And yeah, that's all I'm saying, is we're going to see that kind of a thing get bad. If you're a logical, level-headed person, you just want to play games on your PlayStation because that's what you've used. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's certainly like that's certainly good. But it's the thing that there's this small subsection who's been driving this negativity, and they're going to continue to drive this negativity because it's tribalism or whatever you have, or it's not tribalism, it's perceived tribalism. All right, there's a handful of people who perceive it this way, when really, there's more of a debate to be had on whether or not you think the Horde are good guys or bad guys than there is on by far more of an actual conversation than whether Sony or Microsoft are the better multi-billion-dollar mega corporations. It's like as far as it comes to like console playing on their consoles, it's like there's issues to be had there and talked about, but they're really not that important at the end of the day. Like there's certain things like this whole like what Sony is doing right now with these takedowns. It's like that's certainly something that we could talk about.
Absolutely, there are definitely reasons to be disparaging of Sony as a company. Not speaking of the player base or the people who like consoles. In fact, I mean, I've considered getting a PlayStation before, and if there wasn't if a good enough exclusive comes out for the PS5, I'll certainly take a look at it. They definitely showcased some awesome tech with the Unreal Engine 5 demo.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I really want to focus on. I really want to get this one point across. Technically speaking, like I said with Epic and the Epic Game Engine, there's issues that I have with the Epic Game Engine and their general process, but those aren't really important, because for people who make game engines to be used by anybody, literally anybody, and they don't care who makes the game, just so long as they're making. They're sticking to the rules and stuff like that. That's a good thing. And that the technical side of those people have nothing to do with Tim Sweeney trying to set up his own Epic store. All right. And I've made that clear like multiple times. It's like the hardware developers behind Sony are in that same boat. Like they're making a system that technically and logistically and mechanically is a good device. Now the marketing people are really hurting them. Really hurting those people who do a good job by doing things that are illegal, not just distasteful things, doing things that are illegal for the sake of like marketing. or what they think is good marketing. I don't know. Like, I don't know why they would think that this is a good idea on any way, shape, or form. But and it's really disturbing that they think that. But that has nothing to do. It's absolutely nothing to do with the concept behind the mechanical system of their machine.
Yeah, and that's where I will qualify what I said a minute ago about, like, and Sony will not see any of my money if as long as they keep up some of the nonsense that they've been doing. As Sunglare, and we've covered this in the past. Sunglare says in the chat here, Sony lost me when they started treating Japanese devs like crap and started starting Japanese fan service games. Then there's the takedowns. All of the takedowns of videos talking about the Last of Us Part 2 leaks, not videos showing the leaks or showing any copyrighted content that belongs to Sony, but going after videos that were talking about the leaks and being critical. And so Sony is literally abusing YouTube's copyright claim system right now to censor people's talking about them and try and shut people down who are being critical of them. Now, the story keeps updating. I know Heels versus Babyface, the copyright claims on his video have dropped, and so the video that they had claimed is now actually viewable. So we don't know what's going on there because the claims have not been dropped on some of the other channels. So
just some guy, that's his channel name, is Just Some Guy. He said last night that his claims got dropped as well. So it's kind of all over the place right now. We don't know really what's going on. Some of these claims have been dropped and then reapplied, and that's just weird to me. That a company can be like, "Hey, that's ours." YouTube can look at them and go, "Not according to this paperwork. Like, this is a mess." No, you don't. Oh, sorry. We'll before you close it down, can we edit it? Sure, I guess. It's not going to change anything. This is really you're standing. Okay, great. Well, we're just going to shut it off. What? Wait, I thought you were going to edit. No, we're just shutting it off. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's fine. Oh, now we're reapplying it. Oh, okay. Now you're reapplying it. So now I have to look at this all over again. Yeah. We included like an extra 40 pages of paperwork for you to go through. Well, that's going to take some time.
Well, it's starting to look like they're just trying to draw this out until the game releases. We are more than 30 days out from the release date, I believe, but not by much. It's like a couple of days. It's like 2 or 3 days until we're at that point where it's like 30 days out from the release of The Last of Us 2. And if they choose to if they chose to reclaim those videos, and then the YouTubers appeal the claims or appeal the strikes, those will lapse after 30 days. So, intimidation tactic, delay tactic, just trying to keep everybody quiet until the game comes out. Whatever they're doing, it's sketchy and it's abuse of the copyright system, and it's just wrong. And Sony should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing. As with regard to that, yeah, I get that you're pissed off that people leaked the stuff, and that the general reaction was negative across the board. It has nothing to do with any ideologies or any people belonging to any certain group. And across the board, people reacting negatively to what was revealed in the leaks. And so they're trying to censor this, and then there's also seems to be attempts to alter the narrative to be like, oh, it's only certain people of certain ideologies who don't like this, who don't like the leaks that, or what was revealed about the story. No, that's not it at all. So anyway, they screwed up hard, and they're just living in absolute denial about the fact that they just screwed up hard, and they can't handle that. But I mean, there's also they want to protect their income. This was a pillar series for them. This was a highly anticipated game, and then the leaks got out. People started canceling their pre-orders. So Sony's doing everything they can to protect their interests there. Which, I mean, there's reasonable ways of doing that. There are ethical ways of doing that, but there's also unethical ways of doing that. And they've stepped into the unreasonable, unethical, and in many cases illegal ways of doing that. But we're going to talk about a different way that some sketchiness has been happening surrounding this game. Although, I mean, yes, it is sketchy and weird, but I question how unique this is to The Last of Us Part 2, and so we'll talk about that. But there are thousands of 5-star reviews for The Last of Us Part 2 across Sony's various stores. Like, they've got a different store for each region of the world. So there's like a Canada, US region, there's like a Europe region, there's a Japanese store. Across all of those stores, and we know that they're separate because they all have different numbers of reviews. So you can add, so they need to be added together to get a full count. There are thousands of 5-star reviews that are going up. The game has not released. Nobody's played it. The special editions have not shipped. And yet even on the GameStop website, I went and checked, the collector's edition for The Last of Us Part 2 has 132 reviews. 116 of them are 5-star. And, like, it hasn't even shipped yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sketchy. But then on the PlayStation Store itself, for the North American region, the regular edition of the game, 908 ratings, and the deluxe digital edition, 1,024 ratings. In Europe, it's actually pretty crazy. There are closer to 2,000 5-star ratings. Now, there might be a few that are less than 5-star, but they're showing the average as 5 stars. So how is this happening? And why is this happening? Now, the reason I say that this might not be very unique to The Last of Us Part 2 is because I went and looked at the Cyberpunk 2077 pre-order page, and in the European region, that also has, it doesn't have nearly as many, but it's got 1,142 5-star ratings. So it's happening for other games as well. And Cyb, you were looking at some other games that are available for pre-order. They all seem to have these mysterious 5-star ratings. Last of Us Part 2 definitely has more.
Every game that's on that I looked at as many of them that was on the sheet when I went to look on it. Every single game except for one had a 5-star rating. One of them had a 4.5-star rating. Those were on pre-order games only. Going through the actual store, I just kind of perused like top listed games. Every top listed game had like 4.5 to 5 stars, with the exception of one, which was No Man's Sky, which most of us remember how horrible that game did on its initial release, and it was at 3.5 stars. So I don't know. I mean, even Fallout had like 4.5 stars. Fallout 76.
So it's very questionable.
It's so, like, I want to know how their metrics are done, how they I've heard from somebody who said that Sony has an anti negativity score thing where if it gets flooded with a bunch of zeros or ones, those are all deleted. However, they do not delete spam 1-star or 5 stars. They'll delete spam 1 stars, but they do not delete spam 5 stars. And I believe that I believe in order to be at 5 stars, it's like an 80% rating. So like as long as 80% of your reviews are above like 4 stars, like are 4 stars or above, then you're just automatically put at 5 stars. because apparently to get into the 5-star ranking, that's like 70, that's plus 75% positive feedback. So
Right.
so a lot of these numbers are really weird, and I've got to say, I will fight to have Steam's review system stay the way that it is. They have some anti-brigading, some anti like spam stuff. They do separate it into like lifetime votes and recent votes and stuff like that. And I got to say that I think that's fine. I really do. I think that's totally fine. I think it's I think it's totally acceptable for them to do that. Um, because it is a little frustrating. You're working on a game and somebody in marketing made a bad decision, right? And then suddenly you're faced with like, truckloads of negative comments, and those things will stick around forever, and you have to just constantly look back at that. Um, I get why they want to minimize that kind of a thing, but at the same time, it's like the community does need some way to disapprove. They need some way to tell a studio, we don't like this, and rather than just you shipping it like this, we would rather you fix this, because that's really the thing that I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of studios don't understand that if they just came out and said something, anything, just were like, hey guys, yeah, we're sorry. It's just like, we're sorry, give us a couple months, please. We'll see what we can put together, right? Like, I honestly think if 76 had come out to the truckload of failures that it had, and if at that E3, I mean, he got up on the stage, like, and he sort of apologized. He did this like apology non-apology thing that you could say is an apology, but you couldn't sue them over. And that's the other thing, is like a lot of people don't understand that the main reason why people get sued is because people get sued, or why people don't apologize is because people get sued. You apologize, that's you admitting guilt, therefore you can get sued into the ground just cause. It's like that's a messed up system, as well, and unfortunately we have to just deal with it. And
Right.
that's it's fine. It's like, we've got to come up with some kind of a solution to that. But obviously the current system we have is kind of messed up. But if they had come out and said, hey guys, we're really sorry, we're really messed up on this. Some people like this game though. Some people like the concept with what we're doing here. Give us a couple, give us a year. We're gonna have a couple of these big updates. We're gonna bring back NPCs. We're gonna do a bunch of this stuff that you guys asked for. We're really sorry, and at some point we hope you come back and give us a second try. We're not gonna do something like this again without like really taking time to learn how to do it right. If they had said that, I honestly think that the audience probably would have let it go. Right now, for the most part, people kind of let it go. It's kind of come down to a meme status. Um, 76 is now, I'd say, is okay. It's not good. It's not great. But it is okay. It's not terrible. You don't log in and have a horrendous experience on the average play. Like, there's still bad things that can happen. There's still some hacks running around that can ruin your day or ruin your week, for sure on that. But there is not this like overarching, like complete, total failure in every way, shape, and form possible. We haven't gone. It's not like that anymore. It's like, this is actually pretty fun. That's kind of where they're at, and this is just, they've made it quite clear that this is a start. This is where they would have preferred to launch from.
Right.
And if it's like, oh, this is actually not too bad. If they had launched with that experience, most people would be behind this, and there would be a lot more behind it, and there would be a lot more like positive support behind them. So I'm very curious. I finished kind of playing through it, kind of getting a sense of where it's at, and I decided, and here's the biggest factor that you can tell on whether I like a game or not, I did not uninstall it. So I'm going to give them some more chances. We'll probably come back to some some of it in the future. I don't think right now is the best time to. I think I want to wait for their next big expansion, see, and that should be coming later this fall, to see kind of where they're at and to see whether or not it's a respectable product again. But right now it's not terrible, it's good. And I think that if companies could just do that, if Sony could just come out and say, look, guys, we're telling a story. And how many stories, how many shows, how many TV shows, how many Game of Thrones have you guys watched where you watch it and you just not satisfied? It was just a horrible, horrible ending. We are taking a chance on this. And we want to be right on this. We want to create something really cool. We hope that you will like it. We really do. But instead of that, they've gone, oh, yeah, you guys, screw you.
You will like it. We will silence you if you dare criticize. Yeah, it's...
Right? It's like...
the way they're handling it, I don't know. They moved... You've been saying... You've been anticipating these kinds of problems ever since they moved their headquarters from Japan to California. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to see... to see it now.
It's getting worse.
I mean, it's
getting worse, but I mean, it's also with Naughty Dog. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I have a whole video that came out, months and months ago. This is the last game Naughty Dog is going to make. It might not be the very last game that they make, but it's the last big budget game that they make for sure. Not without a considerable and total recreation of the studio. So without them firing a whole bunch of people, hiring a ton of new people, and then somehow trying to get no, they're down 25% of what they were when they finished their last game. They're down 50% of industry professionals that they need to produce a game. You're not going to be, and nobody's taking them as a hire. Like, nobody's coming to join that thing willingly. Some people are like, well, I mean, it's either this or go on food stamps. Like, those are some of the people that you might get to come back to this company at some point. But like,
not exactly an ideal talent pool if that's the case.
No, I mean, let's be fair. The talent pool might be just fine. It might just
not saying it's stuff, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's
the passion for them coming to join that
if
company,
the only people who are taking jobs at your company are doing so out of desperation,
then you're not getting people who love to be there. You're not getting people who are passionate about your project or about your vision. You're getting people who are there because they have to be there, and that is never, ever, ever. That is never, ever, 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 ever going to last. Exactly. That is going to be a company that's going to nosedive into the ground very quickly.
But Sony, I think Sony's definitely got a lot riding on this game, and so they're lashing out in desperation. Either that or they're just dumb. But it seems like they're desperately trying to promote this, protect it from bad press, and lash out at anybody who criticizes them. But back to, just circling back around to these reviews in general, it is sketchy. It's like, why can you rate a pre-order that you've not played?
Yeah.
If that's the case, and I saw somebody mention that in the chat, thank you. And we talked to somebody else who is a PlayStation gamer who said, yeah, I think you can put in a rating after you pre-order. So this could be... This is
something that I don't know. I don't know whether it's just the people that we know, but I sent out some feelers and said, hey, can you rate this game? And everybody came back with the same response. Well, I haven't pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not going to pre-order it either to see if I can find out, because I'm just not interested in the game. That's what we've heard. That is what I've heard from pretty much everybody.
Yes, and I mean, that's anecdotal, but obviously these reviews are coming.
It's like, ooh, if that's even like a small, like, mainstream concept, that's gonna end poorly.
Anyway, the reviews are coming from somewhere. So either there's just a heck of a lot of people pre-ordering it who are giving it 5-star reviews, or Sony is buffering that, like they're inflating that number somehow, or they're culling out any bad reviews that they get, or a mixture of all of those somehow. But it is really weird that you can rate pre-order games on their service, and that almost all of the games available for pre-order are 5 stars. Like that just seems sketchy, but it seems like a sketchy system. Again, we do have there are a whole bunch of pre-order ratings on games like Cyberpunk 2077 as well. So this may not be a unique problem to The Last of Us Part 2, but at the same time, The Last of Us Part 2 does have way more of these 5-star ratings than Cyberpunk, despite the recent controversy. So that is a little sketchy, but there's no proof. But we wanted to address this because it's being reported as Sony's kind of like Sony is doing something sketchy. Maybe the case, but like it may just be a case of it being a sketchy system rather than them specifically doing something for The Last of Us Part 2. Hope that all makes sense. And with that, we got to wrap up. So thank you so much, everybody, for the great show today. And I credit our audience always for adding so much to the show with the live chat and the interactions there. We really appreciate all of you, the great conversations. Thank you for listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. That really helps us out. We really appreciate it. Comment below if you're watching after the fact. Subscribe for tons more content. Hit the notification bell, all of that stuff. All of that stuff helps us with the algorithms and getting our content out there. And share us with your gaming friends. We'd really appreciate that. Join the Discord, talk to us, talk to other community members. It's a great time. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters and our channel members who help to make this content possible. Our big dang heroes on Patreon, Josh, Robin, Time Bean, 2 anonymous supporters at that tier. Thank you all so very much. Our channel members, Mr. Pazdernik, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, and Terra K are members on YouTube. Really appreciate all y'all's as well. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms this goes to, we appreciate your interactions there as well. But don't forget that you can join the live show on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion, and you get the latest info sooner there. See the server for exact times and schedules. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name's Ash. On behalf of Cyb, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.